Ngayong gabi sa reaksyon, hindi pumasa sa Commission on Appointment si Perfecto Yasay Jr. para maging kalihim ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Ginisa ng husto si Yasay sa confirmation hearing kaugnay sa issue ng kanyang citizenship. Humingi siya ng paumanhin sa naidulot na kalituhan ng kanyang mga pahayag, ngunit iginiit niyang hindi siya nagsinungaling sa kanyang pagiging Pilipino. Lahat ng senador at kongresista na miyembro ng komite ay bumoto para harangin ang kanyang pagkakatalaga sa ahensya. At para pag-usapan yan, makakasama natin ngayon mismo si Attorney Perfecto Yasay Jr. Good evening po sa inyo. Attorney Yasay, welcome to Reaction and thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, Lucy. It's
Just
a
a
pleasure.
day after the rejection, how does that feel?
Oh, there's life after rejection of your appointment as Secretary of Foreign Affairs. I have more time for family, and I just had a haircut, so one of the pleasures that you get.
Did you see it coming though?
No, I was very confident that the position I took was correct. But nevertheless, I'm very happy that our democracy works. The process of our checks and balances and the mechanisms that support it are strong, and the Commission on Appointment did its job in making sure that the checks and balances are safeguarded. They did their job, I did mine as well, and so I have no regrets about it.
In the second to the last hearing, the U.S. citizenship issue came out, and it was then that it became a full-blown issue. In the interim, did you for a moment wonder whether you had indeed hidden something, at least as far as the perception of the CA members is concerned?
No, Lucy. Let me tell you. Let's look at the two instances where people claim I lied. One, that I was a citizen. I became a U.S. citizen.
Did you not?
I said I applied and was granted U.S. citizenship in November 26, 1986. But I did not legally acquire U.S. citizenship because at that time of my application, I was disqualified to do so because of a preconceived intent of abandoning my U.S. residency at the time, and 3 months thereafter, I actually abandoned my residency by returning back to the Philippines for good. Under immigration law, that makes the grant of U.S. citizenship void ab initio. This was a conflicting position that I, as a former U.S. lawyer and a specialist in immigration law of the United States, took versus the Philippine legislators who had their different views, and I don't fault them for that. So, did I lie about saying that I did not legally obtain U.S. citizenship? The facts are clear. I did not lie. My view might have been inconsistent or contradictory to what the members of the commission thought, but I did not lie. The second is, they say that I denied having a U.S. passport. I did not deny having a U.S. passport. I have always accepted the fact that on November 26 of 1986, I was granted U.S. citizenship. In fact, I was issued a naturalization certificate as an evidence of that grant. I also, as a result of that issuance of a naturalization certificate, was issued a U.S. passport. But then again, when I said that I did not obtain a U.S. passport, I was referring to what was alluded in media that on sometime in 2006, I was issued a United States passport bearing a particular number. I deny that, and I continue to deny that, but I do not deny the fact that in 1986, I was not only granted U.S. citizenship, I was granted the evidence of that U.S. citizenship, which is the naturalization certificate and a U.S. passport.
When you say that you've been granted U.S. citizenship, doesn't that make you a citizen? Are you trying to say that under U.S. immigration laws, you could be given a U.S. passport and not be a citizen? This is what's not clear.
No. I'm not saying that at all. You can be granted U.S. citizenship, but that grant may not necessarily be legal or valid at the time it was granted because there might have been elements that were not complied with. The U.S. Immigration Act, applicable at the time, when you are granted a U.S. citizenship, if at that time you had a preconceived intent, meaning that it was not your intention to reside or continue with your residence in the United States, and then you also depart, even if you did not have an intention, but if you depart from the United States within 2 years from the grant of that citizenship, you are disqualified.
Which you did.
Which is precisely the situation that I am in. It's just like, let me just use an analogy to make our people understand what it is all about. You have been married, you're granted your marriage, but that marriage had some essential requisite that you alleged later on after your marriage had already been performed. And then that marriage was turned out to be null and void ab initio because there were elements at the time that it was granted, which is, for instance, you had a vitiated consent. And that's exactly the kind of a situation that applies in my case.
So you applied,
yes,
and you were granted, and
yes,
you're saying that by the time you were granted, you had no more intent to be a U.S. citizen. Is that?
No.
Tama ba yung ganong?
I no longer had any intent to continue my residency in the United States. Not citizenship, ha? Okay. Iba yung citizenship, iba yung residency.
In the interim, between the time that you applied and the time that you were granted the citizenship, kumbaga, nagkaroon na kayo ng desisyon, sir, na hindi nababalik na kayo at aalis na kayo ng Amerika.
That is correct.
So para sa inyo, and under the U.S. immigration laws, you take that to mean na you were never a citizen.
I did not legally acquire U.S. citizenship.
Oh.
These are two things. Now, I'll tell you why ginigiit nila kung magsasabi na
naging U.S. citizen
naging U.S. citizen ako. Dahil pag naging U.S. citizen ka, you lost your Philippine citizenship. Now, remember, I did this before in 1986. Wala pa yung tinatawag nating reacquisition or retention law. Republic Act 92-25, yung dual citizenship. This was long before. Yung dual citizenship law came about in 2003.
Okay, sir, marami po ang nagtatanong. Pag binasa nyo naman po ang constitution natin tungkol sa qualifications ng isang cabinet secretary, ang nakalagay lang naman daw doon ay must be a Filipino citizen. So marami ang tataka, ba't hindi nyo na lang daw inamin sana na, oo nga, once upon a time, na-grantan kayo ng U.S. citizenship. Bakit nga ba, sir?
Unang-una, inamin ko na I was granted U.S. citizenship. Ang dinideny ko was that I became a U.S. citizen. I denied the fact that I legally obtained U.S. citizenship. Now, ginigiit ako ng mga iba na magsasabi that I became a United States citizen.
So parang meron ding mga nagsasabi sa inyo na sabihin mo na lang.
Sabihin mo na lang. Bakit? Anong kasunod nun? If I said wrongly on the basis of the circumstances in 1986 that I legally acquired U.S. citizenship, then when I renounced it, I lost that U.S. citizenship, but I did not acquire or reacquire Philippine citizenship because under Republic Act 92-25, I should reacquire. And therefore, the next accusation that they will say, then you are stateless. That's the whole reason. I could understand the position they're taking against that. That's the position they're taking.
Kasi hindi rin naman talaga kayo nag-apply for reacquisition.
Exactly.
Kasi nga, hindi naman kayo naging citizen.
Yes, and besides, there was no law at the time. As I said, Republic Act 92-25 was only enacted in 2003.
Did you not swear that you were going to disavow, to renounce allegiance to any other foreign nation?
Yeah, in your naturalization process.
Right.
In your naturalization process, you do.
You never went through that?
No, I went through that.
So doesn't that make you a U.S. citizen?
That is precisely what I'm saying. I was granted U.S. citizenship, but the question whether that citizenship was legal or not is something else. Because the Immigration Act is precisely...
That's a really thin line there.
No, that's the provision of law. It's not a thin line. The law is very explicit and clear on that point.
Then why did you have to go to the U.S. Embassy last year to officially, renounce that citizenship?
Okay. I went there because there were allegations before I assumed office as Secretary of Foreign Affairs that I was a U.S. citizen because they said I was granted a U.S. passport in 2006. I went to the U.S. Embassy to find out what is the procedure precisely to get an affirmative, explicit certification that I was not an American.
So it was not a renunciation?
No. The form was a renunciation form because that is the only form available here, but the actual renunciation referred to precisely the affidavit I executed in 1993 saying that I did not legally acquire U.S. citizenship. Now, this affidavit that I submitted to the U.S. Immigration happened in February of 1993. In December of 1993 of that same year, I went to the U.S. Embassy and applied for a U.S. visa to enter the United States.
Which means?
Which means that if I were an American citizen,
Yes.
I would not be granted that U.S. visa.
In
This is
effect-
my position. Now,
Yes.
I do not fault and I do not blame the members of the Commission in doing their job, in scrutinizing my qualifications. But my point is, even as the Commission on Appointment made that determination, that decision, it does not divest me of my presumptive Filipino citizenship because that issue must have to be resolved before our regular courts that has the competent authority and jurisdiction to decide on that matter.
Of course, the other sensitive issue that was brought up yesterday had to do with the supposed destabilization attempts that came out of your interview on radio, supposedly.
I don't think that was an issue that the Commission on Appointments considered in rejecting my nomination or appointment. I said it in the context of the fact that, like you're asking me now, whether or not there was politics involved in all of this process, and I precisely alluded to in my interview outside of the Commission on Appointments that I personally feel that politics was involved.
You have been head of the Securities and Exchange Commission. You ran for a senatorial seat and for the vice presidential seat. And all this time, naging issue ho ba ang inyong pagiging U.S. citizen?
Never.
Hindi nyo po ba naaninag na maaaring maging malaking issue ang tanong na yan?
When I assumed the Office of Securities and Exchange Commission, some people started to raise that issue, but they never really were able to articulate it before any Commission on Appointments because my appointment as Commissioner of the SEC did not involve the Commission on Appointments.
Why did you not clarify it even then?
Why? Because
And
they never
lay the issue to rest.
Haka-haka lang yun. If they raise it, if I was subjected to, if they brought me to court and then they filed the case that I'm not, I would have responded very clearly. But why will I respond to something that is not even articulated? And then when I ran for the Senate, the COMELEC also made a ruling that I'm a Filipino, I'm qualified to run twice. And then as Vice President also, the question of my Philippine citizenship was a consideration for the COMELEC to allow me to run. Nobody ever questioned that. Maybe because probably they thought I was not going to win, but that's another thing.
Marami nagsasabi, sir, na pwede raw kayong kasuhan sa korte for perjury.
If they want to do so, it's fine.
Do you think that would be a vindication, though, if the court themselves would declare that indeed you had never been a U.S. citizen, if that so happens?
I wouldn't call it a vindication, but I would call it a resolution of the issue once and for all, insofar as those who question my citizenship is concerned. Right now, I have no doubt in my mind that I am not only a Filipino legally, I am a Filipino in thought, in word, and in deed.
Attorney Perfecto Yasay Jr., maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thank you.
Have a good evening and God bless.
God bless you too.
Kung walang magsasabi, walang mangyayari, ang opinyon mo, pinakikinggan, pinag-uusapan dahil ang bawat balita may katumbas na reaksyon. Ako po si Lucy Cruz Valdez. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.